Hey, Mike. Hey, it's great catching up with you. I know we were planning on doing this for a little while, but we're just going to carve out a few minutes, have a little conversation back and forth, and hopefully just be able to provide some value for those that are checking it out. I do have just a quick list of questions for you, and just to kind of come out swinging out of the gate, what's why should people be thinking about estate planning?
Well, that's a great question, Bobby. Um, what I believe is everybody that we meet that has at least one child, I believe that that person or that couple, I believe they've been thinking about some type of estate planning document since their child was 1 or 2 months old. And if they didn't think about it that early, they were definitely thinking about estate planning documents when they were about to leave on their first kidless vacation. Okay.
Hmm.
You know how married couples do today when they don't have any documents in place. The night before a kidless vacation, one of the parents, usually mom, is running around the house looking for notebook paper where they can write down on a spiral what's supposed to happen to their child or children if the worst thing imaginable occurs to the parents, and that is they die on the family vacation. Okay. I think everybody knows that that piece of paper really is an illegal document, and it does nothing to solve the problems that mom and dad left behind, but at least it makes them feel a little bit better.
Yeah, it's like that paper plus, call this, here's the doctor, if
Yeah,
something were to happen. And I'm glad you're saying about vacation, because I was thinking, how many times do we spend more time planning our vacation than we do either whether it's retirement planning or a seriousness of putting together an estate plan, right? Maybe speak to
absolutely.
that of
Well, well,
why it's so
well,
easy to
Bob,
procrastinate on something so serious.
absolutely. Let me give you the straight one, because it's a heck of a lot more fun to plan a vacation than talking about who's going to take over and handle our affairs if we're dead or incapacitated. And Bobby, that word incapacitated, I can tell you right now, that's something that most of us ignore even thinking about. I mean, come on. Who wants to think about spending the last 1 to 3 years of their lives in a wheelchair in a diaper with somebody feeding us and
Right.
not being able to function in life or make any decisions? Okay. But Bobby, that is exactly the first issue that we need people to be thinking about. And that issue is if you lost the ability to make decisions for yourself. I don't know, you got sick or in a bad accident, you're incapacitated. What people aren't thinking about is if you fall into that condition, who's got the legal right to access your retirement accounts, make a real estate transaction, or a medical decision on your behalf? And please don't say it's your spouse, because just because we're married to somebody does not provide that person with any decision making authority over us or over the other spouse unless there's proper permission slips or documents in place providing that power. And by the way, Bobby, more importantly, what people aren't aware of is that these permission slips for succession, for example, a financial power of attorney, not only does somebody need to have one in effect, but every one of their financial institutions need to know about it now, why they're competent, because what many aren't aware of is that financial powers of attorneys that are presented after the incapacity to the financial institution, and those documents are older than 3 years, you'll find that most financial institutions will not accept them because they're too old.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, and that's something, yeah, absolutely, that I've learned by working with you, because most of the time people think about just what happens to the money, right? That's what they think, a will and trust, what's in it for me, what's going to happen with the money, but they're not thinking about, in decisions like that. If you become incapacitated, how can you make make any decisions? You can't. Somebody else is going to need to do that for you. So I like that word, permission slip. What document is in place that's going to allow them to do that, right? And so
Absolutely.
it's so important.
And Bobby, if I could just go down that incapacitation issue one more time, what many people are surprised to hear me say is your 18-year-old that's still living at home, or they're off at university and you're still providing all of the financial wherewithal for them. Many parents are surprised to learn that if that child becomes incapacitated, unless they've put financial and medical powers of attorney in place so that they can make a decision for their child if they become incapacitated, they're going to be surprised to learn that they don't even have authority over their own child simply because they're 18 years of age, and your child needs to give mom and dad the permission, the legal permission through documentation to be able to make decisions when they can.
Wow. Yeah, it's so important. Speaking of the 18-year-old, I always try to recommend this, and this is why it's so valuable that I'm introducing a professional like you and your wife to these families. Are that a lot of times we're naming, our children as beneficiaries on something as simple as life insurance policies. Explain what were to happen if, the parents both were to pass, and now the life insurance is going to pay out at age 18. I know for me personally, I don't even want my 18-year-old to have 20,000, let alone large sums of money. But that's what most people are set up as. Their contingent beneficiary is the minor.
Or the minor children. And the reason mom and dad are doing that is because of their gift of optimism that allows them to believe that they're not going to die when they still have
Right.
minor children. Okay.
Right.
It's their gift. Okay. But Bobby, when we all take a step back and really think about it, we all know minors can't contract with any financial institution. That's why mom and dad, when they wanted to open up a bank account for their minor, had to join them and sign on their behalf, because 18-year-olds can't contract. So God forbid you leave this world and you have minor children as your beneficiary. Okay. What's going to happen to those life insurance proceeds? Well, what happens is after your estate is settled through probate, those life insurance proceeds are going to be placed into a conservatorship account. That just means in a bank account that's controlled by someone that the court appointed to act on your child's behalf, to control the money for their benefit. And when your child hits age 18, they get whatever that account balance is, no questions asked. That means if they just don't understand how to spend money, they're strung out on drugs, they're poor decision makers, just regardless of their situation.
Influenced by their peers, right? You get a lump sum of money. I've heard the stories,
Yes, you have.
and it absolutely, I mean, it's almost the lottery mentality of how does somebody have so much money but end up broke? Well, they weren't prepared to
Yeah.
receive those kind of funds, and so
Fancy car, Bobby, a boat, and a bunch of vacations, and money can be gone very quickly.
yeah, yeah. And so it's so important that people understand this, and that's what I like, Mike, working with you. You do such a great job with education. Can you maybe explain the planning process, or what would it look like should somebody schedule a strategy call with us?
Well, number one, we're all about education. The strategy call, there's no decision making. There is hearing the information and getting your questions answered so that you have, and if I could say the word, you have a perfect understanding of not only what problems you want to address, but what documents you want to put in place to help your family transition control of your affairs during a very uncomfortable time in their lives. And that uncomfortable time is when you're no longer here to help them. So by making sure the proper estate planning documents are in place, you're allowing a transition of control to the people you love and trust most. So during our strategy call, we're going to spend about an hour and we're going to go through the estate planning issues that we all need to address. We're going to talk about methods to address those issues. Okay. And obviously answer questions as we go along. Okay. When we understand your situation, in other words, what you're trying to accomplish, we'll be able to even provide you with a cost for your plan before you make a decision whether or not to move forward with us and allow us to do the planning for you. So we're very thorough in our education and answering your questions and really making sure that there's no stone left unturned with regards to the planning needs that you require.
That's wonderful. And obviously, especially since COVID, everything we're living in this virtual world. Is there any issues? I know people are probably watching this in different states. Is there any issues being able to have these kind of conversations virtually?
There's no issue at all. I mean, I think people are feeling really good about the virtual meeting today, and I don't know about you, but when we got the camera on, it seems like you're just almost ready to cross the
Right.
desk,
Right.
doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the new normal, right? So
It's right, the new normal. I believe that the education, it transmits just as effectively over a virtual meeting like we're having as it does face to face.
wonderful. Well, hey, just to put a bow on this has been great that we were able to carve out some time. I know that it was just an introduction. I want to, definitely recommend anybody that has an interest, get together. We can schedule some time, get together with Mike and his wife, and we can sit down and look at anything. But any closing thoughts before we stop
No,
here?
no, here's the closing thought. If anything that we've said today has sparked any interest or concern, take the time, reach out to Bobby, schedule a relaxing educational call. And after you've done that, I know both Bobby and I feel very confident you're not going to have any doubt as to what direction to go that's right for you and your family.
That's wonderful. Well, I appreciate that. So thanks so much again, Mike, for your time. Like I said, there's going to be information below this video that if you just like to schedule a call with us, we can plan that for you. And again, we appreciate you. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye now.